Hi, and welcome back to the NFXL podcast with myself, Andy XL. Right, third of the NFL season is done. Time to look at the power rankings for teams. Then I'll have a look at the MVP race and the Offensive Rookie of the Year in this pod. So let's start with the power rankings. Number one this week, after being number three the previous week, are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Another fine week in week six takes the Bucs clear at the top of the NFC, despite their increasing and becoming endless list of injuries. A road trip in Detroit this week, given all their issues, will certainly be a stern test for the new number one Bucs. I mean, to get a win there, everything's been pretty much miraculous for the Bucs so far, but that would be a miracle, I think. Um, at two, dropping one place, are the said Detroit Lions. To the Chiefs has cost the Lions their division lead in the NFC North, but they need to get a win over the Bucs in Week 7 to keep them on track. So, you know, let's not go overboard about a loss to the Chiefs. That happens. The Chiefs are the team of the decade, but the Lions need to get back on track. Still looking like a very good team, though. Um, Three, dropping another team dropping a place, the Philadelphia Eagles. Shock loss to the Giants was costly in terms of the conference standings, but with the Commanders and Cowboys also losing, the Eagles still lead the NFC East. So they're in a decent position, but there are concerns there. Um, and like I've said in the previous piece, to me they just look a bit mentally jaded at the moment. It's a bit like coming off their successful season last year. They're struggling to find what it needs to get strong, good performances. Now they may recover that feeling as the season progresses. They're still a decent side, as like I say. That's why they're three in my rankings. Four and up one spot, the San Francisco 49ers, up a slot despite losing to the Bucs. It still wasn't a bad performance, and they look like to start getting some of their injured key players back from week 7. Things are looking positive for them on that front. So that's why I've moved them up a spot. Up 2 to 5, continuing their rise, the Indianapolis Colts, the first AFC team in this list. Um, Another strong performance from those AFC leading Colts lifts them 2 spots into the top 5. But the fact that the current best team in the AFC is only number 5 in this list shows the disparity in strength between the two conferences. Having said that, number 6 are another AFC team and climbing 6 spots are the Kansas City Chiefs. All hail the Chiefs after a hugely significant win over the Lions. And they, like the 49ers, are getting back to full strength personnel wise. Rashee Rice comes off his suspension, for instance. So all good for the Chiefs right now. 7, dropping 1 spot back into the NFC for the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams won in week 6, but were embroiled in battles both in their division and for wildcard berths in the NFC. At their best, they are really, really good, but can they deliver their best consistently is the question posed to them. 8 and staying at 8 are the Green Bay Packers. The Packers' win over the Bengals was far from convincing, but has taken them back to the top of their division right now. 9, dropping 5 spots, the Buffalo Bills. A big fall for the Bills after their loss to the Falcons. They have lost their advantage in the AFC East and have fundamental issues they need to address in order to challenge to win it all this season, notably stopping other teams running all over them. 10, and still at 10, the Los Angeles Chargers. It took a miracle play from Justin Herbert to allow them to get a winning field goal to beat the lowly Dolphins, and their O-line issues still need solving for them to take control of the AFC West again. And another team standing still at 11 are another AFC West team, the Denver Broncos. The Broncos' win over the Jets was a really ugly one offensively. Apart from one quarter against the Eagles, that is indicative of the Broncos' offense this season. So improvement is needed from that side of the ball for them to maintain their current division and wildcard positions. 12 and rising 6 spots, the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have star quality in the shape of Bijan Robinson for sure, but easy enough to allow them to challenge for titles this season. And, other areas of the roster are getting better. But if teams stop Robinson, what else have they got? That's the question I'm putting out there. 13 and staying still at 13, the Minnesota Vikings. They were happy to see the Lions lose during their bye week to stay in the race for the division, but other results did not help them in that regard and in terms of the wildcard spots. I've kept them at 13. Nudging up one spot from 15 to 14 are the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got another win, but they still failed to impress me overall, really. And the team taking advantage of an opportunity presented to them in the AFC North with the Bengals and Ravens' massive issues. So it's more the others not being good than the Steelers being good. Right, up 4 spots to 15 are the New England Patriots. Patriots are on the up, and this roster is coming together quickly as they're making a real push for at least a wildcard spot in the AFC and maybe even a divisional title over the Bills. So all good for them. 16 up 1 spot, the Seattle Seahawks. See somebody put them in at 3 in their power rankings this week. What? Some are going way overboard, as I say, about these Seahawks being a good team. For me, they are still third favourites to win the NFC West. So need to keep winning to get a wildcard spot from the NFC. That's still their most likely path. I think the 49ers and Rams are better than them, is what I'm saying. Right, quick drink as I've got halfway through. Power rankings. Dropping 8 to 17, the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Yo-Yo Jags dropped 8 spots this week by failing to build on a win over the Chiefs that catapulted them up the rankings in week 5. The benefit of that win over the Chiefs has been diluted by their loss to the Seahawks in week 6. And they just don't convince me as a team that's, if they make the playoffs, can do anything of great note there. So that's why I've dropped them to 17. Dropping 4 spots to 18 are the Washington Commanders. Similar could be said of them. The Commanders losing to the Bears cost them 4 spots in my rankings as they missed a golden opportunity to catch the Eagles and move away from the Cowboys. But as I said in the good week, bad week piece I did previously, it also shows that then maybe they're not a team ready to win right now at the highest level. So I've dropped them to 18. Dropping to 19 from 16 are the Houston Texans. They didn't even play this week, but it was far from a great week for them. The Colts moved further ahead in the division, and wins for the Pats, Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs set them back in the wild card race. So their form's coming together, but they've certainly got work to do. And talking to teams that have got work to do, staying still at 20, the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, they lost again, but they look better this week, and now they get a bye week to get healthier and to try and start setting about catching the Steelers and make up ground from the back of the wildcard pack. So I've kept them at 20 because I think they could get stronger after their bye week and start to make a run. Now, could the same be said of the Cincinnati Bengals? Now, I've climbed them 3 spots from 24 to 21. The Bengals offense looked better and better with every minute vet Joe Flacco played last week. So reason for hope ahead of a vital Week 7 meeting with the Steelers. They're either, after that game, they're either going to significantly climb these rankings or see a fall. And if they go downwards, then it's probably the end of their season. Up 1 at 22 from 23, the Chicago Bears. They've got a third win in a row that has allowed the Bears to avoid winter hibernation and keep them in the race for the postseason. Up 3 from 26, the New York Giants. Their shock win over the Eagles made them the only team to win in the NFC East and gives them some sort of chance to stay in the race as long as rookies Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo keep delivering. Down 2 to 24 are the Dallas Cowboys. These Cowboys love a shootout, but were wounded by losing this one to the Panthers. And like I said, as I've always said about the Cowboys this season, since Micah Parsons left, no defense and no, they, if they put up in the court of can they make the postseason, they literally have no defense. Right. Arizona Cardinals dropped to 25 from 21. Bottom of the NFC West and 2 games behind their other 3 teams. The countdown clock to seasonal oblivion is ticking for the Cardinals. Down 1 to 26 from 25, the Las Vegas Raiders. Yes, they got a comfortable win over the lowly Titans, but that was rendered largely meaningless by wins for the other 3 AFC West teams. Up 1 from 28 to 27, the Carolina Panthers. Yeah, these Panthers have claws and use them to good effect to overcome the Cowboys. But more is needed for them to get back into the NFC wildcard race in earnest. Swapping places with them by going down a spot, the New Orleans Saints. Another decent showing resulting in a loss drops the Saints to the foot of the NFC standings and pretty much ends their season. Up two from 31 to 29, the Miami Dolphins. They lost but climbed 2 spots due to not being as bad as others were in week 6, says it all. Cleveland Browns down from 29 to 30. No offense meant, a comment that applies to the Browns. No offense. Right. Tennessee Titans dropped from 30 to 31. Never in the game really against the Raiders, who are only 26 on this list. And that shows where the Titans are right now. And still bottom of the pile, the New York Jets. These Jets continue to crash and burn and are seemingly losing faith in their quarterback now and probably have good reason to do so. So that's my power rankings 1 through 32. So let's have a look at the MVP race. And I can see this beginning to form now. It's been quite blurry early on. There's still a number of contenders, and I've expanded it out to 15 this week from 10. But I think there are 4 or 5 that are probably the main contenders as I look at it right now. And that starts with number 1, Baker Mayfield, who was number 5 last week. Now, he's averaging over 250 passing yards a game. He's averaging 2 passing touchdowns per game. Has only thrown 1 pick. And he's doing marvels in the rushing as he on the ground sometimes as well, as he showed in that one notable play last week. So doing all of that with barely any receivers available to him, it's just been superb, and he's got to be the leader in the MVP race right now. But right behind him is the bigger name of Patrick Mahomes, up from 3 to 2 this week. He's averaging over 250 passing yards a game, just under 2 touchdowns a game. He's thrown 2 picks. He's rushing for more yardage than Mayfield, and also has 4 rushing touchdowns in 6 games. And similarly to Mayfield, he's doing this with an injury hit receiver core that's getting itself back together now. And Mahomes has done brilliantly for the Chiefs in the first third of the season, so he's got to be in the MVP race. Now, I've catapulted these two up from 9 and 10 in my rankings to 3 and 4. And I know quarterbacks always win this award, but I'm beginning to make a real case for running backs in this one. And the first one I've got at 3 is Jonathan Taylor. He's had 750 yards and 8 touchdowns so far this season. So he's on course for over 2,000 yards, 2,125 to be precise, and somewhere in the area of 22 to 23 touchdowns. And with Daniel Jones starred, he's done well, Daniel Jones, but I always said on that team, Taylor's the bigger difference maker than Jones. And, I'm posing the question like Mayfield, where would Tampa be without Mayfield? Where would the Chiefs be without Mahomes? So where would the Colts be without Jonathan Taylor? And that's my measure of MVP candidate. So he's got to be right in there. As has number 4, Bijan Robinson. Huge game against the Bills, but running backs do well against the Bills every week. But Robinson just went off on a big one. He's now got 164.5 scrimmage yards a game. Just read that out again. 164.4 to be precise, scrimmage yards per game this season. Now, he's only notched 3 touchdowns, so that's where he falls behind Taylor. But yardage-wise, he's on target for no less than 2,794 this season and around 9 or 10 touchdowns. So, again, the same question. Michael Penix isn't the difference maker for the Falcons. Bijan Robinson is. And where would the Falcons be without Robinson? That's my question. So that applies to number 5, but in a different way, because this is the 5th guy that I've got as the main contenders at the moment. And he hasn't been playing, but it's Lamar Jackson. Now, if and when he comes back, well, he will come back at some point, if the Ravens go on a run, then it's going to be clear that Jackson is the difference maker for them. So I've got him in at number 5. Now, just briefly rushing through the other ones. These are all in contention for me, but need to do more. Jared Goff, obviously, he's had a couple of losses. The Lions need to do well for him to do well in this award. Drake May is up to 7. He's another that's now averaging over 250 passing yards a game, more than Goff who averages just around 232. 1.67 touchdowns per game. He's only thrown 2 picks, 23 rush yards per game, and 2 rushing TDs. He's a young quarterback doing well on an up and coming team. Um, it tends to be with this MVP award, you go as the team goes. So if the team continues to go well, he could be a candidate in this award, but still more to do probably at this stage. Josh Allen is heading the other way. Um, you know, again, like I say, players tend to go as the team goes, and it's not his fault that the Bills are getting run over by everybody else. That's nothing to do with him, but it will hurt his MVP prospects if the Bills don't do well. Similarly with Jalen Hurts at 9 for the Eagles. Now they're still in a good position, but they're not playing well at the moment. It has to be said. So he's dropping down the list. Jaden Daniels had a bit of good, bad, and the ugly in week 6. So he's in at 10 in my list at the moment. And, in the same division as Hurts for Philadelphia. If either of those teams wins that division or help that quarterback in their MVP candidature, similar applies to Matthew Stafford at the Rams. The Rams probably need to win the NFC West for him to be a candidate in this. At 12, I've got Aaron Rodgers. Again, he's doing well because the Steelers are doing well. But if you look at his own stats, he's only passing for just barely over 200 yards a game. Yeah, he's throwing for 2 touchdowns a game, so he's been really effective in the red zone. But he has thrown 3 picks, which is more than others higher up this list. So Rodgers is in the list purely because the Steelers are doing well, and if that changes, then it probably falls out of contention. 13, Dak Prescott, 269 passing yards a game on that Wild West act that the Dallas are putting up this season, and over 2 touchdowns a game, thrown 3 picks. He himself is playing really well, but to beat some of the names at the top of this list, surely the Cowboys have got to do better than they're currently doing. 2 other non-quarterbacks have chucked on the bottom of this list, and maybe they should be higher. We'll see what happens in coming weeks with the other quarterbacks. One is Christian McCaffrey. Again, I'll pose that question I posed earlier. Where would the 49ers be without McCaffrey? He's carrying a huge load. 139 scrimmage yards a game and 4 touchdowns so far. And 15, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who is the only wide receiver in this list, but he's averaging 117.8 scrimmage yards per game and has 3 touchdowns so far this season. And again, I'll put that question out there for MVP consideration. Where would the Seahawks be without him? Now, time's marching on here, so I'm going to quickly march on with the offensive rookie of the year. And I'll do this quickly. Number 1 is still Emeka Egbuka, 478 yards and 5 touchdowns. But how long is that hamstring injury going to keep him out? And how big a window is that going to open for others behind him? At 2, Aston Johnson, who now has 497 yards and 5 touchdowns. 3, Cam Scatterbo, who's just behind him, 4 yards behind him, 493 yards, but also has 5 touchdowns, and he's doing it on a bad team, as Johnson is at the Raiders. Tyler Warren is doing it as tight end for a good team in the Colts, 376 yards and 3 touchdowns. Now, there's a measure of how he's doing, 376 and 3. Brock Bowers had 396 and 1 touchdown in his first 6 games last season. So Warren is doing at least as well as Bowers did last season so far. Quinshon Judkins is about 50 yards behind the other 2 running backs, Jonte and Scatterbo overall, and has only 2 touchdowns. So work to do there. Ted McMillan, 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. His first touchdowns came against Dallas, but do wide receivers scoring touchdown against Dallas really matter that much? Everybody scores against them. 7, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, who had a pretty poor game in week 6. Jackson Dart at 8, he's had 2 winning 3 starts, but for me, Scatterbo's the better candidate on the Giants at the moment. Let's see what Dart does going forward. Amarian Hampton is out hurt at the moment. Or possibly, he got hurt in week 5. 450 scrimmage yards and 2 touchdowns for the season. 3 others I'll just throw in as joint number 10. Matthew Golden, Harold Fanning and Travis Hunter. Golden's beginning to get going. Travis Hunter still hasn't. Harold Fanning and David Njoku is hurt for the Browns, and that may open up greater opportunities for Fanning in the coming weeks. So keep an eye on him. Right, that's the awards, as it were, done and dusted. See you soon.